Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Downright Upright Show, the place to go to hear out loud and proud what Minnesotans are thinking. And I'm your host, Philip Anthony. Thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you're all doing fantabulous. And you know what fantabulous is, Stuart?
It's fantastic and tabulous.
And fabulous. Twice as nice saves time.
Okay.
That's what it is. Anyway, so my special guest today, I just love this person, this human. Amazing. We'll talk about him more, of course, during the show. His name is Stuart DeVaan. He's the CEO of Mplex.net, the director of MCN6, and a member of the band Savage Aural Hotbed. So he wears many hats, and you'll hear all about these hats, except the fedora.
I forgot my fedora.
Do you wear one? Really?
No.
I just pulled that out of the hat. Anyway, hello, Stuart, and welcome to the Downright Upright Show.
Thanks for having me, Philip. I greatly appreciate it. So,
oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you.
So
I'm excited to be here.
So. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So the first question I always ask my guests is a foundational question about their beginnings. You know, like where you were born, raised, went to school, so the audience gets to know more about Stuart.
Sure.
Because Stuart is amazing. And you could talk about the early days too, like, before you leading up to your career.
Sure. Yeah. So, my parents were farmers. They grew up and had farms in western Minnesota. And they actually moved off the farm when I was born and moved to Chanhassen. And I did.
What part of western Minnesota?
Graceville, Morris, out by South Dakota.
I don't know where that is. Okay, that's good.
You just take Highway 7 or Highway 12 west, pretty much,
right.
And you'll wind up in Morris, Graceville, out that way.
Okay.
So, my parents were pretty much rooted in agricultural world and stuff. My dad actually moved to Minneapolis. He was in the Navy, and he did radio communications in the Navy, and wound up getting a job here in Minneapolis at Control Data, the computer company that doesn't exist anymore. I think it still does exist, but it's, they do like payroll or something like that.
Right. So the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Apparently.
No. He was a nerd, but yeah, so grew up there. My parents used to ship me out to my mother's sisters for harvest time in the summers and falls for harvesting crops or milking cows and stuff like that. So when I was a teenager and stuff, they, free labor, send me out, work on the farm.
Did you enjoy that, or it was too much work?
Yeah, not initially, but then I did start to really appreciate it. The more mature and the older I got, it was a lot of work getting up at 4 a.m. to milk cows, and I didn't have to do that, but as part of the farm culture and stuff, you get to bale straw and hay and all that stuff. So
did you go to school in Minnesota as well?
I did, yeah. So I've got 3 degrees. I got 3 associate degrees. So I got a degree in electronics, associate of arts, and then a degree in TV production as well.
All right.
And so I knew I wanted to get into TV when I was at an early age. And so here I am. As with my business, I stream a lot of video. We do a lot of corporate communications. And internet stuff at Mplex. And then, of course, with MCN6, we have the cable metro area. So we go throughout the 7-county metro area on MCN6.
So to piggyback on MCN6, you and I met there.
We did, yeah.
I was doing Bottomless Coffee with Jerome, who was on my show a couple days ago, right before you.
Jerome is awesome, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God! It was all of you there were amazing.
Oh,
all
thank
of
you.
I felt like family. I felt at home.
Thank you.
Because I was very scared because I never did a TV show, but in my life, in my entire life, I have a face for radio. Everybody says so.
Well, you're a handsome guy.
Oh well, thanks, Stuart. You're making me blush. But anyway, so we met there.
Yeah.
And you direct other shows as well on MCN6. So can you talk about some of those shows and, guess what else you do there? Or
Yeah, so the mission of MCN6 was Metro Cable Network, and we branded it Minnesota Community Network. And so what we want to do is produce Minnesota-made content in support of building strong, diverse community,
right,
and
great idea.
really use the TV station to highlight other things that are going on. We do a lot of music. We just produced all of the like League of Women Voters debates and stuff. So trying to do more political stuff and more community-oriented events in that regard too. So some cultural stuff. We do a show called Downright TV. We do Jerome Show, of course. And then we do a music show called Back to the City, where Simon Calder interviews different musicians and stuff like that.
Local musicians.
Local musicians, yeah. So it's all focused mainly on Minnesota-made content.
Right.
And so we produce a lot of music, actually. So every Friday, Saturday night, we stream live out at Jazz Central. We've got a camera system set up in the Jazz Central studios, and so we stream every Friday, Saturday. We also have a couple portable kits that we can take around and do live performances and stuff. And we've done stuff at First Avenue and Mortimer's and 331 and a bunch of different clubs. We're setting up another permanent install down at the Schooner that we just got up and running too. So streaming live out of the Schooner, live music, a lot of that stuff as well.
It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, you also are the CEO of Mplex.net, right?
Yeah.
And tell the listeners, if you can, what the focus of that company is and what you do there.
Yeah, so there's two main things that we do. So we started out as a ISP in 1996, and doing
what is that's an acronym for
Internet Service Provider.
Yes.
So
okay.
Mainly the things we're doing: web hosting, server co-location, that type of thing. We do a lot of microwave internet now.
Microwave
internet, yeah. So we have transmitters.
So you cook the people when you no.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's an antenna that'll
Just
go
kidding.
on top of a business and provide internet. We have transmitters on the roof of IDS Tower and US Bank and various other towers around the Twin Cities metro area that we can provide internet access. And then we still do virtual servers and co-location and web hosting and that type of stuff too. That's one arm that's called Data Ride. And then another arm of Mplex is called QuickCast, where we do streaming video production for basically corporate communications. A lot of corporate communication.
It sounds very challenging. Is that challenging, or you're getting used to you're getting more comfortable with it, or?
Yeah, well, I've been involved in the internet, 1995, 1996. In my previous experience, I did satellite communications. I used to work at Midwest Communications, WCCO. And so I've been doing video broadcasting. We did Vikings games and Twins games and all that stuff. So we did the transmission for all of those sporting and news events and all that stuff. So
Wow.
That expertise really helped well, because when the internet started coming around, I'm like, oh, wow. At that time, there's a software called Real Video, Real Audio. Do you remember this?
Not real. Maybe Brett, did you ever hear of that?
I have not, no.
Yeah, so Real Audio, if you want to look it up, was the very first streaming software. And Real Audio 1.0 was audio only. And I was playing with that on my 14.4 modem, if you remember modems.
Oh, yeah.
You could stream
that. I remember
a 9K audio stream to your
I didn't
computer.
tell you this, but I was on the Ark with Noah.
Yeah.
So I remember all of this stuff.
You're an animal herder then, were you?
No, I mean, I'm joking, but I remember all of those old school things. I even had one of those cameras. I was talking about this recently. I got to bring it up for you because I'm sure you remember it. Remember, you used to put the floppy disk in the camera, and then you would take a picture, take the floppy out, and put it in the computer.
Yep.
That's what I had.
Yeah,
that's how old school I was with cameras.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that is really fascinating, and as we move along in the conversation, the thing that I realized is, with satellite communications, this was in the 80s that I was doing this. So I interned at WCCO as an engineer, WCCO TV at the time. And one of the first gigs that we did was Van Halen 1984 was on tour. And Van Halen was in the WCCO TV studios, and we did the uplink for NHK back to Japan.
No way. You met them?
I did meet them, yeah. And
Van Halen.
Yeah.
With David Lee Roth or the other
David
guy?
Lee Roth.
Okay, yeah. Wow.
And
Amazing.
there's this little Japanese girl, who was on the phone back to NHK in Japan going, hi. They're asking her questions, and then she'd ask them questions in English, and then
wow,
it was pretty amazing. And when you think about the communications technology, you're talking millions and millions, if not billions of dollars to create the satellite uplink, to create the satellite in geosynchronous orbit, and the downlink in Japan, and that communication, millions and millions of dollars. And then when I left CBS WCCO, I went to American Express, and the projects that they had me do there was I basically put a computer on all the senior VPs' desks around the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that they could all see and hear each other. And so it was video conferencing.
What year was that?
This was 91, 92, somewhere
before Zoom then, right?
Yeah, before. Oh yeah, it was before all that stuff.
Wow.
And so, but the idea was that they give me, I think it's like $500,000 at the time to build out this five. Basically, I built 5 computers that sat on their desktops, and then I built a bridge where they could all dial into this bridge and then all see and hear each other, right?
Uh-huh.
So the technology went from billions down to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then when I started Implex, we set up a VDO server, which doesn't exist anymore. It's a video conferencing software, basically.
I don't know what that is, but okay.
Yeah, well, it's like Zoom, right? It was Zoom before Zoom.
Video.
VDO.
Video.
The actual letters VDO. If you want to, they don't exist anymore, but
all right.
So, and I had a $2,000 computer and a camera and stuff like that.
Right.
So now the same technology has now gone from billions, millions, hundreds of thousands to thousands today, where you can buy a phone for $200 with a camera and microphone and all that stuff in it, and do the exact same thing that just in the 80s was billions of dollars. So that's how the information technology has really progressed, right?
Right.
And so you kind of look at today in information. We're going to talk about this, with elections and all this other stuff, but how we're now able to publish. We are our own broadcast station, basically. Each individual with Instagram and Facebook and all this other stuff can transmit globally. Like, I did in 1984 with Van Halen. I didn't. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people that were involved in putting that infrastructure together. And so that technological advancement that we see ourselves in now, right? And, when I think about it philosophically, you look at the 80s was kind of when satellite technology kind of came to fruition. And I have a theory where what really brought down the Soviet Union was Dallas and satellite communications. Because
Dallas, the show?
The show, yeah.
Okay, because I knew the city wouldn't do that.
No.
Okay.
Well, and my idea, and it kind of informs a lot of things, because now the internet's kind of doing the same thing, right? Because what was happening in Russia is, you could get a satellite dish in Russia, and you can aim it at a satellite in geosynchronous orbit, and you could watch Dallas in Russia, right? And they're watching Dallas on Russia, and they're going, is this the way all Americans live? Of course, we don't live that way, but
not at all, no.
When you see things like, I have friends from Eastern Europe, and one of the first questions I asked them is, what was the most amazing thing when you came to the United States? And the answer is always the same. It's always the same when somebody from East European country comes to the United States, or the West in general. And what's the thing that was the biggest cultural shock? And they say the same thing. It's the grocery store. They're like, they walk into a grocery store and they're like, holy cow, look at all the food.
The variety of food,
The variety of food and the abundance that they see in the West. And under, authoritarian, where, you don't have
Dictatorships, yeah.
exactly dictatorships. You don't have the same freedom, and so you don't get the same diversity, right? Which we're going to talk about, because economic diversity is very important as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you know, in my head, I think of these thoughts about how the technology has really influenced our culture, right? And those are the questions that we're trying to struggle with right now, grapple with. You know, now that all this misinformation can fly around the world in an instant, you know, how do we deal with that, right? And
AI.
now AI is going to impact,
Because now they have like people, AI is creating like, I saw this video, which it looked real to me, of Joe Biden saying terrible things that, you know, could influence his campaign.
right.
I mean, it's scary, right?
Right. And that's where, you know, one of the reasons I want to be on your show is to kind of educate people about how technology works, right? And the way you can be manipulated by that technology as well. And just help people in layman's term understanding what technology does, right? So, I tell my the people I work with at Implex, what it's really about is the World Wide Web is really about what you want, when you want it, where you want it, right?
Right.
So information technology is always trying to deliver Van Halen to Japan, or you back to your husband on your phone, right? Through Zoom or Teams, or, you know, streaming video on a YouTube or a Snapchat, or, you know, whatever Instagram thing that you're doing. So now you're able to teleport yourself around the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are saying a bunch of things, right, and you're spreading those things out, how do we fact check basically the information that you're getting into your phone, right? Basically, because you have a TV screen and a broadcast station in the palm of your hand now.
Yeah.
And so people need to be educated about what's actually going on, especially with AI being able to manipulate the sound and images now, and be able to show you that somebody's saying something, but it's not really them, right? So
Can you tell the difference?
I have been able to up to this
I
point.
have so much trouble with that.
Yeah, there's some other deep fakes that, you know, I haven't delved way into the deep fakes as far as that stuff, but I've seen, like, you know, Elon Musk and Bill Gates, and, you know, videos that were really poorly done. You could tell they're definitely fake.
Okay. Well, some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I want to go to something I didn't know about you. I want to go
Okay.
into this. I'm going off on a tangerine now.
Okay.
We're gonna. Oh, my microphone is moving again.
Yeah, it's got a mind of its own.
Stay there.
It's an AI microphone.
Do not move. It's an AI microphone. It doesn't like me. It wants to go that way.
Yeah.
You know, I don't blame you, but
Yeah.
so you were or are
Still are, yeah.
in a
So
band,
playing at that invite that you got there. You'll get a chance.
Well,
to see
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this. So, you're a member of a famous Minneapolis band called Savage Aural Hotbed.
Yeah.
Which I looked it up online, and it's amazing. Your band has won 4 Minnesota Music Awards. 4.
Yes.
Okay. Has a star on the outside mural of the famous Minneapolis nightclub First Avenue, which is incredible. That's where Prince performed, right?
Yeah.
You have your own Wikipedia page,
Yes.
and you released 7
Seven.
albums.
Yeah.
OMG.
Yeah.
So can you talk about the band, and, you know, because I want the listeners to, do you still perform, or?
Yeah, we're performing on the 16th
At this gala.
At this gala. It's a private party, so sorry I can't mention it here. So
Okay, yeah. You didn't hear that.
No, it's an experimental percussion group. So there's 3 percussionist drummers, a bass player that sometimes play percussion and horns and stuff like that. So
What instrument do you play?
drums.
You play the drum?
Drums, percussion. Yeah. So I play a regular drum kit. And so the other members, like Dean comes from orchestra as a percussionist. Mark comes from like marching band and a lot of ethnic percussion, doumbeks and bongos and all that stuff. So we're kind of like a diverse group of percussionists too that came together, and been doing this since 1988. So
Wow.
been around a long time. Yeah.
Wow. And that was the
And
only time you ever played drums in a band, or you had
no,
you were
drum
experienced
kit. I've been playing since I was in 4th grade, so I played in jazz bands and blues bands and cover bands and rock bands
Oh
and
my goodness.
all that stuff too. So
Awesome sauce.
yeah, so I can say this: I'm playing with a group called the One Hit Wonders on the 24th.
The name of the band is the One Hit Wonders.
The One Hit Wonders. Yeah, it's a cover band. They just play one hit wonders.
Oh, like we think of one, Macarena.
Macarena. We don't do Macarena.
What other one hit? I'm trying to think. Torn Between Two Lovers. I'm going back, guys, to the 70s. Who else had? There's a lot of people had one hit.
Yeah, there's a whole thousands of one hit wonders. Right.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
So that's always fun, and that's happening at the Driftwood November 24th. If you want to come down.
Oh, wow.
Driftwood. I don't know if the show will be out by then, but
next week is Jerome's, I think, and then you're after Jerome. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
Sounds good.
And you have your own Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
How did that? I mean, did you know about that, or did I?
I did. I'm not sure how it came about, though.
Because only really big, people with influence are on there, right?
Do I have a lot of influence? Is that what you're saying?
Your band. Well, I'm not on there, so and neither is Brett. Brett's not on.
We should create a wiki page for you guys.
Brett, do you have a wiki page? Yeah, we don't have wiki page, but that's okay. But that's impressive. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And
can I be honest with you?
Sure.
Since we're sitting here across the street, I've never met anybody.
Lie to me, please.
Lie to me. Tell me lies. Tell me sweet. Yeah. I never met anybody that had a Wikipedia page.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're the first.
Oh, well.
And I find that impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Now we're going to move on to something that you mentioned to me, and that's you're very passionate about, community and diversity.
Yeah.
Which I am just as passionate about. So I think that's where we hit it off.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that's something that we need more of in this country. Diversity and community are interconnected and are the higher power. That's what you wrote to me, and I love that statement. Can you elaborate on that? What that means?
Yeah. So from a philosophical standpoint, I consider myself a free thinker, right? And so I define that as somebody that, when somebody says, do you believe in God? First thing I say is, okay, what do you mean by God, right? How define your God? And so for me personally, I define God, if you define God as, some guy dressed in white robes in the sky that's, you've been naughty, you've been nice, you've been naughty, you've been nice. I'm a hardcore atheist. I don't believe that exists, right?
It's kind of like Santa Claus.
It's kind of like Santa Claus.
Because he sees you when you're sleeping and he knows when you're awake.
Right. Exactly. And then I'm an agnostic when you define God the way Einstein defined God, the universe and nature and all this other stuff. Now, is that God conscious and going, you've been naughty, you've been nice? I don't think so. But there's an unknown that we don't know about, right? And so you always have doubts, right, of that. And so there's where I'm an agnostic, right? And then I'm a theist because I believe that community is the higher power, right? And so, and I think that what's missing in the atheist and agnostic community is what is the purpose of life, right? And that's where religion always steps in and goes, well, it's Jesus or Muhammad or Thor or Mithra or whatever other mythology, Zeus, yeah, what other mythology that you want to plug into that. And so what I think is that community is the higher power, because when you look around, everything in this room, the microphones, the cameras, the paper, the computers, was created by community, right? All of the things that we see around us was created by community. And the more diverse that community is, the more it's able to produce unique things, adapt to the universe. And I have faith in the community, right? I have confidence in the community that if you and I work together, we can do more than I could do by myself, or you could do by yourself, right? And so from an evolutionary perspective, it really makes sense, because a story that I always tell is like, so you've got a tribe of people that are being traced across the desert by a pack of hyenas or, lions or something like that, right?
Mhm.
They come up to this raging river, right? And one of the people in the tribe tries to, swim across the raging river, and they get washed down the river, right? Well, then what we figure out is that if we all combine our arms together, we walk across the raging river together, we can avoid the pack of hyenas, because as one of us slips, the rest of the community catches that person.
Hmm.
And then we can all together make it across that raging river, right? So I use that as an analogy to go, you need tall people, short people, fat people, skinny people. You need all of this diversity in order to get across that raging river. And that's really the universe. We need to adapt to the universe as we're, crossing that river or crossing that universe. And so I see that in the business that I run. I see that in MC on 6, the TV station that I run. I see that in Savage Aural Hotbed, in the music that we play, trying to bring in diverse sounds and diverse instruments and that type of thing, and really experimenting and iterating on things that we've done before. So you're always coming up with unique things that then become part of your tool belt, right?
Right.
And so now that you know these things, you can apply them to other mediums. So what I learn in my business, I can apply to my music. What I learn in my music, I can apply to my business. And so, I look at this as an algorithm that you can apply to yourself personally, right? The more diverse I am as an individual, the more I can contribute to the community, right? And the more valuable I become to the community. And then if other people, if their purpose, their higher power is community, and they understand how they integrate into that community, their purpose is to become more diverse, learn more,
Mhm.
build community, have a dinner party, right? Go out to coffee with somebody you haven't gone out to coffee with in a year or 6 months or something. Connect with the people in your community that you haven't connected with before,
Right.
and really connect. The stronger those community connections are, and then on top of that, accepting different perspectives and different ideas, and not especially, the only intolerance you should have is you should be intolerant of intolerance. Everything else is fair game,
Yes.
right? Because
Mhm.
as a gay man, as a straight man, as a trans person, or any other person in the community, you not only should respect that, you should nurture that, right? Because that is part of that diverse community, and that's going to help us get across that raging river as, we're trying to adapt to the universe.
That's how
And
humanity survived. I mean, because
totally
we are not the strongest animal on in the world. We're not the
correct.
fastest. We don't fly, but we learned community. We learned that we could hunt together. We could kill animals bigger than us, and we could eat. And but I'm starting to see, and tell me if you agree or not. And now in modern times, we are tending to be me, me, me. I don't care about you. I don't care if your children are eating at home. I
Sure.
don't care about paying taxes for, schools. I don't. It's all about me. I just want to live my life. Leave me alone. Are
Sure.
you finding that as well? That's happening now.
Well, and I think, what's happening with the media again is that, at WCCO, they always used to say, if it bleeds, it leads, right? And so,
Yeah,
and
eyeballs.
and we're exactly, because you want the clicks and you want the eyeballs. So it's always the extraordinary, like, oh, they said this, and they said this stupid thing, and they said that stupid thing. So you get desensitized, and you're always bombarded by all this negativity. And I say, look around and go, you got this electricity, you've got these TVs, you've got these computers, you've got clean water, you've got a place to sleep, hopefully safely at night and stuff like that. We need to encourage more of those things to happen, because the mundane, wonderful things that happen every day don't make the news. And there's a reason for that, because that's just mundane stuff. But that's the fabric of the community that really binds us together. Because again, when we work together, we can do more than when we don't work together. And proof positive that I'm talking into this microphone and looking at you right now, this wouldn't exist if as a species we were fighting more than we were cooperating, right? So
Right.
we talk about the war in Israel and all of these things, and Ukraine and all this stuff that's going on right now. Those things have gone on since, before humanity was Homo sapiens, right? I mean, there's battles between chimps and orangutans and all those other primates that we're related to. So, nobody is perfect. Nobody is 100% in the right. And you really have to have some empathy and humility for that other perspective. And that's why that's important too, because you can always learn from the eyes of babes, as they say, or somebody they come to the world with fresh eyes, right?
Right.
And that's why those extra perspectives are so valuable.
Compromise.
So, yeah, compromise, exactly.
And I think, and I'm plugging AM 950,
yeah,
because this station is the only game in town when it comes to our voice, progressive people's voice. We have shows that are just amazing. I mean, they go from, equity and inclusion to climate change and food secureness and blah, 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 blah,
Right.
And I think and we're the only game in town in Minnesota. And so, and we try to promote that community. We try to promote that we're all human beings and our humanity. And I talked about this, I think, on Jerome's show.
Yeah.
That we, when he asked me, what do you want? What's your mission on your show? What do you want to do? I want to spread the love, man. You know?
Yeah.
Love is the answer. It spreads. Love travels. Like I always say, you do something nice for someone, and that person will go, oh, and then do something because they know how it feels when someone did something nice to them, and it's kind of like a chain.
It is,
and
it's a vicious cycle. And the choice that you have as an individual, do you make it spiral upwards or do you make it spiral downwards?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so positivity, doesn't propagate as much as negativity, because negativity is something that we've evolved to pay more attention to. Because again, as we're primates evolving, we heard the grass rustle, right? And it could have been the wind, or it could have been a tiger about to jump out and pounce on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we take off running, okay? It was just the wind. But if that 1 out of 50 times it is the tiger, right? The person that runs every 50 times survives, and the person that doesn't gets eaten by the tiger, right? And so our biology, we're really programmed to overemphasize the danger, right? To overemphasize the negativity because our lives depended upon it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we evolve that way to really be sensitive to there's something wrong here. And that's what the news and the negativity in the news really feeds on, is that instinct, because it's like, well, I better check that out, right? Because there's a fire, or there's a car crash, or a plane crash, or whatever it is. If it bleeds, it leads.
That's why people, if you notice, when there's an accident on the street,
yeah, I do.
How many people are there?
I slow down and look at it. And
they stop. They even block the police who are trying to do their job, and it's I mean, it bleeds. You're right, absolutely. Oh, so now we have come to the part of the show I like to call the shift.
We dance and sing, or what do we do here?
We dance. No, it's called the shift because we shift the questioning away from your personal journey and to your opinions on current events. So it's kind of like a picking your brain segment. Yeah. Okay. And please don't forget to say the F when you refer to the shift, because then we have problems. We have, we'll get bleeped.
Yeah. So, I have not. I've been trying not to use that word. So.
The shift.
The shift.
Yeah. So you could say holy shift, and that's fine.
Okay.
So, as you know, our former First Lady, Rosalind Carter, died at the age of 96. She was an amazing human being, and she probably was one of the, other than Eleanor Roosevelt, one of the most accomplished and humanitarian First Ladies. Can you talk a little briefly about her and how you feel about her passing?
Yeah, I mean, a beautiful human being, a beautiful life. Again, I think she promoted the tolerance and, in from a Christian perspective, the love and the forgiveness, like turn the other cheek and that type of thing. That are some of the beautiful things that come out of that tradition, that mythology and stuff.
Mhm.
And I think that's great. Jimmy Carter too. They both were very religious, but they were also very tolerant, right? And I think that there's lots of lessons to be learned from that, right? The
'Cause
tolerance.
religion doesn't mean you need to be intolerant.
Correct. Yeah.
You
And
could love one another. I mean, if the message of Christianity is love one another as I loved you, or as it says in the Bible, that should be the message.
yeah. Yeah, and most definitely. I mean, but the issue with that though too is that, and this is where I think the higher power is diversity and community, because if you've read the Bible, which I have,
Well, I went to
it's
Catholic school.
it's very contradictory, right?
Yeah.
So you got turn the other cheek, but you also have eye for an eye, right? So there's a lot of things in there. You have to really cherry pick the good parts out of it, right? There's a lot of very nasty things that happens in the Bible, right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things that are enforced by some groups of Christianity and aren't enforced by some groups of Christianity. And so this is where I think, again, where morality comes from is community, right? And you and I were talking about this before, because you use your morality when you read the Bible to go, well, that's, I don't really agree with that, or I do agree with this. The Bible is a story, a series of stories written by humans, right? That kind of like they were trying to answer the questions of why we're here, what are we doing, all this other stuff,
Morality.
right?
Yeah, I know.
Right. And they did the best that they could 2,000 years ago, right?
Mhm.
There's so much more that we know now, and there's so many when you look at Chinese culture and Indian culture and European culture, Northern European cultures, all these other mythologies that come in, you realize that the mythology has been used. I don't know if you read any Joseph Campbell, but from an evolutionary perspective, religion is a stopgap to give us some answer when we can find no other answer, right? And as we've evolved technologically and informationally, we've solved a lot of the issues, like where does thunder come from? Where does fire come from? All these other things. Where did disease come from? And we've solved a lot of these issues that were kind of answered, 2,000 years ago in this, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so we kind of have to let go of those old answers and, again, be open-minded and look at diversity and new ideas and then adapt.
Yeah.
And
Well, like you said, the Bible was written way long. I mean, what is it now? Over 2,000 years ago.
Right.
And they say that the earth began, in this,
6,000 years ago. And yes.
Yeah, is that what it's? Yeah. Which the scientists have disproven.
Yeah. Well,
and how it's possible to have every single animal on an ark. I talked about Noah before. I was with him, so I saw. But
that's right. You were one of the herders. I remember.
I was a herder, and how they can get two of each animal on the ark.
Sure.
But there were no dinosaurs on that ark, by the way.
Right.
And there were none. So it's it makes me think that God wasn't the one that wrote this Bible. It was inspired by human beings, maybe.
Well, most definitely, yeah.
So, but there are people that think God wrote this was God's message. And
yeah, well, and that's where, again, I think, the higher power, if you want to call it God or whatever, how you define those three letters, is community, right? Because when you look at it, there is no mystery to it. It is you and I working together can do more than I can do by myself.
Right.
And yeah.
So I want to get. Well, let's do a lightning round on the rest of these questions
Yeah, we're running out of time.
yeah, we have 10
I know
minutes.
we gotta get it.
So the last 4 major polls, the former president was ahead of Joseph Biden,
Mhm.
our present president, by anywhere from 2 to 4 points,
Yeah.
according to polls. With the economy improving, inflation falling, and many major economists saying we will see an increase in our 401k. So the economy is getting much better. Pollsters are saying it's President Biden's age that is the leading cause of his abysmal poll numbers.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion about that?
Yeah, I think. Well, I hope. I think when people get into the actual voting booth, and you can tell by the the last election that just occurred, where the Democrats had huge success with gubernatorial races and local elections and that type of thing. Abortion seems to be the major issue for a lot of people, being motivated to get out there and talk about and vote, basically, and participate in the community, because when you vote, you're participating in the community.
Right.
Another thing you can do to support the higher power, by the way, is vote.
Yes, please vote. Yeah,
and so I'm always optimistic, because when you look at the philosophy of diversity and you compare that to homogeny, and you look at what's happening around the world with authoritarianism on the rise, and Donald Trump is part of that authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is that one individual that tried to swim across that raging stream that we talked about before by himself. And they will not succeed over diversity. And this is what makes me always an optimistic. And this is, the fact of evolution reinforces this. Evolution is all about mutation and diversity. It's all about, this didn't survive. Let's mutate and see if this survives, right? And so it's always about this iterative process, right?
Right.
And when you look at it, the communities that can iterate and adapt and change the fastest are going to be the most successful communities and societies.
Yes.
Same with business, same with all this stuff. So it's like, just as an example, I was talking about this the other day. It's like Sears had the exact same business model that Amazon has today.
Yeah.
Okay? And they just messed it up.
They had catalogs.
They shifted it up.
Like Spiegel.
Yeah.
I'm aging myself again. But can you briefly address the age thing? Because I kind of I'm in a quandary about this. Why are you okay with someone 77 or 78 years old, but somebody 81 who rides his bike and jogs,
right,
or goes around the world meeting world leaders? And I can't imagine Donald Trump on a bicycle. I just can't. Of course not. Can you?
But this again gets into I don't know. Maybe it's the cultism of it, right? Where people aren't. What a cult will do is close your mind to new ideas, right?
Right.
To change. It'll close your mind to anything outside of your, this is the way it is. No matter what you say to me, I'm not going to be able to change my mind. And that's the most dangerous thing you can do as an individual, is say, I will never change my mind. Even if I'm presented with, this information, right? And that's when you just have to say, okay, well, there's no sense in talking to you anymore, because no matter what I say, it doesn't make any difference, right? There's a certain part of the population that is that way. I'm optimistic. I don't think the majority of people are like that. Once they get into, we're hoping.
Yeah, and I was talking about this the other day, actually. When you're in a cult, it doesn't matter what the platform is or the issues you want to discuss. It's the person,
right?
And whatever they say, you do.
Right.
Like, David Koresh and all these blah, 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 blah people, listen to him.
Yeah.
And don't say, well, what he's saying is kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. I mean,
really? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're right. Cultism is a problem, and hopefully we have more people in this country. But my issue is with this electoral college, because if you just polled the whole country and said who you want to vote for, we would win every election.
Yeah.
By 8 million votes or more. But this electoral college thing is so archaic.
Yeah.
And we're the only country, I think, in the world, right? If I'm not mistaken, that elects their leaders that way.
Yeah, and there's a movement. Actually, my brother is on the board of this organization. He donates a bunch of money, but it's called Represent Us, and I recommend you all look it up. But basically, they're trying to get ranked choice voting in all the states because you got these disruptive candidates. Kennedy's looking at running, and now the other senator from West Virginia, Manchin, yeah, he's looking at running, and so you're going to have these candidates who are going to, hopefully not disrupt the election to the point where Donald Trump gets elected, but they're pushing for ranked choice voting, which I think is a great way of
I agree.
leveling that playing field.
Yeah. Me too. I love ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
Next question.
Sure.
Texas Republican Congressman Chip Roy went on a tirade on the floor yelling, quote, I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, that I can campaign on and say we did.
Right.
Roy was unhappy that the Republican caucus passed a continuing resolution, instead of shutting down the government.
Right.
And making deep cuts to social programs.
Right.
So he's not mad that
right.
that they. I mean,
that they do anything constructive. They're mad that they didn't destroy.
They didn't destroy. Yeah, they didn't destroy the country. Yeah. So you have a quick comment about that?
Yeah. Well, they control basically 1/3 of the body that makes law, right? So the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the President, right? So they control 1/3 of that. It's a child that is a child mentality that it doesn't understand that there's other people involved in this process, and you just can't have a temper tantrum and get your way because there's 2/3 against you, right? And so good politicians realize, okay, what do we have in common with these other 2/3? Let's empathize, let's compromise, and do something. At least you're not going to get everything you want, but at least you're going to get some of what you want, right?
Hopeless.
And so it's this.
Not going to happen.
It's a cult mentality that really, and it's a child cult mentality that basically says, "Oh, I've got 1/3 power. You do what I say, or shift you,
or hold my breath."
Right. Hold my breath until I get what I want.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just juvenile.
Yeah. So I always like to introduce a question regarding LGBTQ issues on my show.
Mm-hmm.
First, the Church of England's governing body narrowly backed blessing members of the LGBTQ community, but still won't condone same-sex marriage. And secondly, the Vatican says trans people can be godparents and at Roman Catholic baptisms, and they can witness at religious weddings and receive baptisms themselves, but cannot still marry whoever they want.
Right.
So throwing crumbs at us again, I guess. And
to their loss, actually, because I mean, what they're doing is they're excluding diversity in their community, right? And that's a homogenistic thing. And when you think about religion, it's very authoritarian, right? Because there's a pope or a leader of the church.
Right.
And there's this
patriarch, whatever it is.
Patriarch. There's this very hierarchical system, right? That's very authoritarian. And so, from my perspective, if you believe that that one person, sometimes they do swim across and sometimes it works, but 99% of the time, the authoritarian perspective fails and the diversity perspective triumphs.
Yes.
It takes more long time and it's messier, but it's always more robust when you're trying to adapt to the universe.
Yeah.
So I would say if they're not accepting gay or trans or anybody for that reason, it's to their own detriment. And they will fail, and they are failing. I mean, when you look at traditional church viewership, I guess would be, it's down.
Well, like your message said, everybody's got to grab arms and cross that river together.
Exactly.
So we can survive as a community. And unfortunately, Stuart,
we're out of time.
We're out of time. And I wish my show is 18 hours, but it's not. I love my guests. I really do. I learned so much from you, my guests. I learned so much from you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Really. I mean, we got to do it again. We'll do it again.
Sure, if you want.
I have to do a show a week now. So
Yeah.
You know, there's how many weeks in a year? I don't know.
52.
To get a lot of people. Yeah. So for more information about Stuart DeVaan, you can go to stuart@implex.net,
Yep.
savageauralhotbed.com, and mcn6.org. And if you want to support my show, go to am950radio.com/events/Philip with one L. And finally, I want to thank my audience, my amazing, aren't they amazing?
Yeah.
I love you guys. Thank you for your clicks, your what else, subs they call them, I guess now today, and all your support. Love you. Ciao for now.
Yeah,
you
bye.
could wave, say bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Sorry I didn't shave.
No, you look great. You look fabulous.